Let's start with the big news in Irish football this evening. This just broke about 2 hours ago, and that is the news that Stephen Kenny has signed a new contract to continue as Republic of Ireland manager that will, as the tweet says there, take him to the end of the 2024 UEFA European Championship campaign, which we all hope, of course, ends in the finals in Germany. His initial contract had run to the end of the Nations League campaign this year, but the statements that the FAI put out said that after extensive and productive talks with Kenny, they have come to an agreement. It certainly were extensive talks, Brian, because this has been going on since, I think, the end of November, since an FAI board meeting. You were one of those who weren't entirely sure whether Stephen Kenny should have been given the Euros campaign as well as the end of the Nations League campaign. What's your reaction to this news this evening?
Well, I'm only surprised that it took so long. They seem to have made their mind up in the FAI that his contract was going to be extended. I don't know why it's taken to this length of time just before the squad is to be announced for the two friendly games with Belgium and Lithuania. There was obviously some issues in the negotiations where people were holding their ground on certain positions. We don't get any information in relation to that. I'm happy for Stephen because the FAI haven't always been very good at renewing people's contracts, or sometimes they renewed people's contracts before they should have. But I think in this situation, what stood to him was the little run results at the end of the group when they beat. I mean, look, he's won 4 matches. None of them highly rated teams in world football. Azerbaijan, Andorra, Luxembourg and Qatar were the 4 games he's won. But I think the performances against Luxembourg and Azerbaijan towards the end were very much in his favour. The draw with Portugal also in Dublin, the 0-0, stood to him, and there was a bit of a wind behind him towards the end. My view overall was that we went out tamely out of 3 different competitions since Stephen got the job. We went out of the Nations League against, failed to win a match against Finland, Bulgaria and Wales. And ultimately that comes back on you, whether it's around coefficients or playoff places or whatever. Then we lost the playoff match, which was only a semi-final against Slovakia. And then the World Cup, we went out from the start. I mean, we lost the match with Serbia early on, lost to Portugal, maybe a little bit unfortunate to lose that match early on. But it almost sounded, from what Stephen said after, that this was all an experimental process until we get to the next Nation League and Euros. I would have never seen that was the position that an Irish manager was in, that it was an experimental process on 3 different major competitions. So I think when this one starts now, there's a little bit of disarray with the 2 games with Ukraine, obviously. Our group is Scotland, Armenia and Ukraine. All teams that are at very similar level to ourselves. Scotland waiting to play a World Cup playoff place, obviously. But Ukraine, that has become a difficulty now. We're due to play them home and away in June. So maybe we'll only play 2 games. I don't know how UEFA are going to deal with that situation in the short term. But that, you know, I think from the off.
But have you reflected on your position that you weren't convinced about giving him the Euros campaign?
My position doesn't really count. This was a decision.
No, you're here to give your opinion.
No, but it was for the FAI to make that decision, and the wind was blowing that way for Stephen when they played reasonably well against Portugal in the away game. They drew the home game with Portugal. They won a couple of matches. Very good second half against Luxembourg to win the game, and that was it. My view was I didn't see what the rush was at that time to make a decision one way or the other. His contract was still running to July. But the FAI have taken the position and decided to go with that, and they've extended the contract. My position now would be I'm happy to see the football we're playing. I'm happy to see the development of the team. I don't think it should be over-exaggerated that the style of football has changed very much. I think it might have changed a bit from when Martin was in charge, and some of how Mick got results. He looked at what we had and tried to play in a certain way. But I don't, there's been a suggestion that this is all new, that we try to play football. But what I want to see is, I want to see results from the start of the next competition, the Nations League.
Well, is this the question then, Damien? Because as Brian touched upon, we saw the numbers on screen there, and that record of Stevens is really marred by that opening spell that he had without a win in his first 11 games. But a lot of that was. And certainly the people who are supporting were saying that was all building and introducing new players and changing the formation and style of play, etc. Is it now a time where it must be results and they must deliver?
Results are difficult, but definitely the progress. You're talking about building and building. We need to keep building and building. I'm delighted for Stephen. I think he deserves to go on the job. I think that was in doubt. I think obviously the length of contract was probably what people were worried about, maybe the end of it, but then you're only talking about a 3-month extension. But look, I'm delighted for him. He gets a chance to continue what he's doing, but make no mistake, he'll know this, he's under pressure straight away. The results will be demanded to a certain point, but the performances in the games have to keep improving. You know, he had a torrid start, OK middle, and he salvaged it at the end with a couple of good results, and it was cutting it fine, you know, but I'm delighted for him that he does get another crack at it. But he's under pressure straight away.
But the groundwork has been done now, and now it's to see whether
supposedly the groundwork is done, and now we need to keep progressing and showing the green shoots that we've seen previously.
And interestingly, if you read the FAI statement, Brian, just a final one on this, there's a lot of talk about that this is part of a wave of kind of positivity around the team, a younger emerging squad, that there's excitement about that they've had record season ticket sales for the Ireland matches, and I think Roy Barrett in his comments says that there's great enthusiasm about the return of the League of Ireland. So does that all fit into Stephen Kenny being maybe kind of a figurehead for a bit of positivity about?
Well, look, you know, I don't know about record attendance.
Don't you get your flags out waving?
Sorry, we've had the stadium full for years for the international senior. It's only been the last few years that we haven't had the stadium full for international matches. I mean, you know, that's not. There's positivity around the League of Ireland, but the stadiums are still in rag order around the country. There's a couple of the grounds were actually unplayable last weekend for League of Ireland matches, or the games shouldn't have been played on them at the start of the season. The FAI need to stand up and deal with that and say, these are the standards, that's not good enough, those dressing rooms aren't good enough for this level of football. So yes, positivity, people are going to matches. They haven't been able to go to matches in big numbers for a long time, and there is that. Around the international team, there's a bit of hope. New young players. The issues around the staff still needs to be sorted out. Anthony Barry has got to be replaced now. We've seen Damien Duff gone, Alan Kelly gone, and Anthony Barry. Rudy Higgins took the job with Derry as well. So you need a bit of stability there. I wonder why those people were leaving the international setup. It's such a precious job. Were they wrong selections in the first place, or the issues around after that they decided to go? It looks like Anthony Barry is going because he's getting a better gig. Yeah. That Belgium are at the World Cup. But Stephen needs stability in there. The FAI needs stability there. And we need, the Belgium and Lithuania matches should beat Lithuania. Belgium won't put out their best team in this game. I don't think they will at all. But it's a nice match. Let's get off to a good start and win friendly matches as well as win the Nations League competitive games and get going with decent football. That's a lovely recipe.
And then we'll all be positive.
A lovely recipe for the future, yeah.